Hello, everybody. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I know it's Tuesday already, so that's usually not the proper greetings. Good morning, everybody. My name is Arthur Kong. I'm one of the directors of project development here at NGen Canada, short for Next Generation Manufacturing Canada. Thank you so much for joining us today for our funding webinar, appropriately titled Propelling Critical Minerals and Materials in Canada's EV Supply Chain. And we're here to tell you more about our newest funding program, so our Electric Vehicle Manufacturing Value Chain Program, or EVMP for short. So in your journey, as you explore opportunities to invest and grow your critical minerals and materials companies here in Canada, please consider NGen and our EVMP program as one of the many tools in the toolbox that you can take advantage of. So we're more than happy to help answer any questions at the end of the presentation. So I want to do a sound check. Everyone can hear me properly?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Wonderful. So to grow a vertically integrated and robust Canadian critical minerals and materials sector, we need to take like a coordinated and collaborative approach across all of our partners and sectors. So today I want to acknowledge some of these key players in the Canadian critical minerals, materials, and EV sector who are working tirelessly to ensure that we take this collective approach, and they are also our partners for today's webinar. So the Canadian Critical Minerals and Materials Alliance, or C2M2A for short, the Battery Metals Association of Canada, BMAC for short, and the Accelerate ZEV Consortium. So first off, I'd like to invite Marilyn Spink from C2M2A to tell us a little bit of something about C2M2A. So Marilyn.
Thanks so much, Arthur. It's a pleasure being part of this, and I think it is key to partner with everybody. The Canadian Critical Minerals and Materials Alliance, or C2M2A for short, is really our goal. I don't know if you want to move to the next slide, but our goal is to champion Canada's efforts to become a global clean technology manufacturing hub. And we do this by advocating to build the domestic production and processing of all the materials that are required to make these intermediate and final products, leveraging Canada's critical mineral wealth and our intellectual know-how. And that's really, Ian is the executive director, and there's our website, and I think I'll move on. And these are some of our members. We have a few members there that are not listed that just recently joined us, but we tie the silos together, I guess, horizontally across the industry. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Marilyn. Next, we have Sean DeVries, also the executive director for the Battery Metals Association of Canada. Sean.
All right, thanks, Arthur. It's a pleasure to be here. So a little bit of background on BMAC. We're a nonprofit industry association. We represent the entire battery value chain in Canada. So we go right from mining and extraction through to processing, production, and ultimately recycling of batteries at their end of life. So we currently have 37 members and collaborating organizations that we work with, and our focus is really on helping to build out the battery value chain. That's by connecting, resourcing, and engaging the different organizations from the different segments of the value chain. So we have two key pieces of foundational work that we've done that help in these efforts or support these efforts. And the first is our roadmap report. And this takes a look at what Canada is going to require to meet its zero emission vehicle sales mandates, which would be equal to 1.3 million vehicles and 100 gigawatt hours of battery capacity by 2030. So this report quantifies the amount of materials required, how many mines or projects that represents, and then all the way through the processing, production, and recycling capacity required to support those developments. The other resource that we have is our interactive battery ecosystem map. So this is just a simplified outline of the framework that you see here on the screen. But if you go online, you can see a very detailed map outlining the organizations across the different segments. Some background on those organizations, including their scope of operations. And we're regularly updating this map. So I encourage you to go there and take a look at it. We'll have not only new organizations that we add to it, but also additional data points. And we're looking at adding some additional data views as well. So again, those are available online. And the last thing I would say, and Arthur, you can flick to the last slide. Thank you. That's our member list there. We are holding the Charged Battery Conference this fall on October 24th in Calgary. So if you are interested in that, come out, take a look, and you can meet some of our members. You can see what's happening in the industry. We're going to have a lot of the industry leaders there talking about some of the challenges, the opportunities ahead. And so you can go to our LinkedIn page if you're interested, find out more information and register there. So thank you, Arthur.
Thank you, Sean. Next, last but not least, we have Matthew Fortier from Accelerate ZEV. Over to you, Matt.
Thanks so much, Arthur. It really is a pleasure to be part of this conversation and to be with some true partners. I'll talk a little bit about the partnerships that we have with BMAC and C2M2A in a second, but also the partnership we have with NGen, particularly on the interactive map that we launched at the beginning of the summer that looks at the full supply chain from minerals through to manufacturing of vehicles and everything in between, battery materials and battery technologies and parts, etc. Is available on our website. And it's been great to work with NGen on that and some other projects. So I'll just talk a little bit about what Accelerate is and the work that we do. So we're an alliance that came together just over 18 months ago, and it's the private sector, it's government, it's labor, it's researchers, it's trade associations, and really anybody who wants to row in the same direction. And that direction is, how do we make Canada's zero-emission vehicle industry strong, competitive, and an important part of Canada's economy in the future. So ours is kind of the organization that's got that mandate to sort of organize and align the supply chain. And through our direct members and collaborators, we sort of represent and touch about 500 different stakeholders across the country, and that's including governments and Indigenous interests as well. And we're a not-for-profit organization that works with foundations and corporate partners. You just go to the next slide, please. So as I said, we've got a bunch of different collaborators. The way that we approach our work is to kind of try to bring people into the same tent. It's not a tent that we own, it's a tent that we're part of, but try to collaborate and organize and align some of the initiatives that are across the country. So the work that the OEMs are doing to manufacture vehicles and turn their production schedules around to meet a growing demand, working with government on regulation and policy issues, and working with mining companies and battery companies to figure out what they need to succeed in this brave new world. Next slide, please. So I mentioned some of the work that we're doing with BMAC and C2M2A. This is a task force that came together about a year ago. It also involves the Mining Association of Canada and the Prospectors and Developers Association, as well as NRCan at the federal level, and the First Nations Major Projects Coalition. And this is an effort to bring together industry voices and other voices to figure out what good looks like for the country when it comes to critical minerals for this supply chain. So, we have a critical mineral strategy in this country that was launched at the end of last year. How are we going to catalyze activity within that framework? So that's the work that we're doing together to try to figure out what actions need to be accomplished now. What are the metrics for success, so that we're on that route to fulfill the opportunity that we clearly have. We've got the 31 critical minerals, and we've got 6 priority minerals that are identified. We have the potential, but we need to catalyze action. So I would just leave it there. I think there is actually one more slide. Just as we think about the value chain, the next step along the way is kind of batteries. And so how do we leverage the opportunity that we have in minerals and transform that into sort of higher value add materials through battery materials and battery manufacturing. So we've got a battery task force that's already produced some terrific work, and working with the federal government to think through what success looks like for Canada when it comes to battery materials production and battery manufacturing. I'll leave it there. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Matt. Yeah, so everyone's heard of the saying, it takes a village to raise children. Well, it also takes a village to kind of foster and build this vertically integrated electric vehicle value chain, and all the way from the mine to the vehicle. So yeah, so again, thank you so much to all of our partners. We have included their websites and contact information here for any follow-up discussions. Again, I think all of our partners here will be happy to take any questions at the end of the presentation as well, if any. So yeah. Yeah, so let's get started on our funding program, the NGen funding program that we have today. So to give you a little bit of a background on who we are. So at NGen, we are an industry-led organization that's been tasked by the federal government to implement Canada's Advanced Manufacturing Global Innovation Cluster, or formerly known as Supercluster, for those of you who are familiar with government lingo. And as implied in our name, NGen has a mandate to enhance and build our country's advanced manufacturing capabilities, and we do so by supporting the scale up and commercialization of advanced technologies across the many manufacturing verticals that we have here in Canada, whether that be mining and materials, or automotive, or aerospace, or food, or biomanufacturing, you name it, we work in that space. And we do so through 5 different functions. First of all, we help promote Canadian capabilities here at home and abroad. So I'd like to flag that Canada will be the partner country for Hanover Messe 2025. So for those of you who are not familiar, Hanover Messe is the world's largest advanced manufacturing trade show in Hanover, Germany. So we will be reaching out to the Canadian kind of manufacturing ecosystem for those interested in taking part as part of the Canadian delegation in the years coming up. So please sign up for our newsletter if you want to stay tuned for that opportunity. We also help build connections. So our job is to help catalyze partnerships and collaborations to make sure that we come together to build innovation that may not have otherwise occurred. As part of NGen, we also have workforce development and management capacity building programs, and I'll talk more about that later on in the presentation. We also have industry-led advisory councils, or groups that help develop tools and resources to help SME manufacturers adopt advanced technologies. And last but not least, where my team comes in is that middle icon is we provide collaborative and R&D funding for advanced manufacturing projects. In 2021, NGen launched our first electric vehicle manufacturing related program. We received over $180 million worth of applications across 80 industry partners. We ended up funding $76 million worth of projects. So that represents over 34 industry partners across 15 projects. 7 of those projects were interprovincial collaboration. So that's fantastic that we get different companies that are from different provinces working together to create a really exciting projects. Overall, at NGen, we've cumulatively funded over $140 million worth of projects from across 100 industry partners and across the EV value chain, all the way from the processing of critical minerals that we're here to talk about today, all the way to battery and vehicle manufacturing. So as you can see, we're really excited to launch our program this year in 2023. But a lot has changed, since in Canada's automotive industry since our last 2021 funding program. We've seen billions of dollars of anchor investments being made across Canada, from the recently announced Ford SK EcoPro BM battery plant in Bécancour, Quebec, to the Volkswagen PowerCo battery plant in St. Thomas, to Stellantis LG Energy Solutions battery plant in Windsor. So the floodgates have started opening here in Canada. So we're really excited to see that. And we know that Canada has the potential to be a leading provider of critical minerals materials here in Canada, as you've heard from all of our partners earlier. However, bottlenecks exist in midstream operations to help transform these critical minerals into materials with high purity levels that are suitable for use in battery grade products and other EV related technology. So, it's really our collective responsibility to ensure that these emerging EV value chains in Canada are built with made in Canada minerals, innovation, and technology. So we need to make sure that the economic value and benefits are kept here in Canada every step along the way in the value chain. Federal Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne calls these investments a generational opportunity. And one of the biggest transformations that we've seen in the industrial landscape in modern times. So our objective at NGen is to use our funding to complement and support these major anchor investments that are coming here in Canada and help build out these emerging electric vehicle value chains with made in Canada manufacturing technologies and capabilities. So this EVMP program, we're targeting transformative, industry-led, collaborative advanced manufacturing projects across the EV value chain, specifically the value chains of on-road battery electric vehicles and fuel cell electric vehicles. And across the value chain, all the way from processing and refining of critical minerals to the manufacturing of battery, magnetic, semiconductor, and lightweighting materials and components as well. For those of you who are not familiar with NGen projects, regardless of the program that we push out, all projects need to meet 5 key pillars or criteria. First and foremost, all of our projects need to focus on process innovation. So you're either developing an advanced manufacturing technology and or a transformative production process, so like a new flow sheet, for instance. So we want to contrast that with product development and product innovation. All NGen projects also need to be transformative in nature. So we're looking for projects that will help put Canada on the map and help us leapfrog over other jurisdictions. So all of our projects, we will ask our companies to identify pieces of novel and transformative intellectual property that will result and come out of the project. All of our projects need to be collaborative in nature. So all of our projects need to demonstrate meaningful collaboration with at least 2 industry partners, one of which needs to be a small medium enterprise, which is less than 500 employees globally. And I'll go more into that at a later slide. All of our NGen projects need to generate significant commercial benefit. So we're not looking for early stage experimental projects, but projects that have a short to medium path to commercialization and path to market. And last but not least, as with any government funding you will apply to, all of our projects need to demonstrate a broader benefit to Canada's advanced manufacturing ecosystem, whether that be workforce development or other kind of environmental, social, and governance or other economic development metrics. Now let's take a look at eligible project types and eligible EV value chain areas. As I had mentioned, NGen focuses on process innovation. So we're looking at projects that focus on either the development of an advanced manufacturing technology, a novel manufacturing process, or circular economy processes and capabilities. As this is an EV-focused program, all projects need to be related or targeted at one of the following areas across the EV value chain. So we're looking at either the processing of critical minerals and materials, the manufacturing of traction batteries and their related components and systems, the manufacturing of fuel cells and their related systems and components, power electronics, electric machines, including electric motors and the gearbox, as well as significant vehicle lightweighting that has a direct relation to EV objectives. And I want to note that the manufacturing scale-up of hybrid powertrains are in scope, but only for the electric and zero emission aspects of the architecture. But I'm assuming the audience here today will be more focused on the processing of critical minerals and the manufacturing of traction batteries, so the upstream end of the EV value chain. I won't list each of these out line by line, but there will be certain projects that are considered out of scope. So projects that focus primarily on product development, projects that don't contribute to an EV value stream, projects that are related to the manufacturing of off-road vehicles and their components, projects related to, as applied as an EV program, projects related to internal combustion engine-based powertrains are out of scope, as well as projects related to the manufacturing of EV charging infrastructure. So we're looking at Canada's bread and butter, which are on-vehicle innovation. And I want to note that at NGen, we consider manufacturing as everything downstream from extraction. So anything related to refining and processing onward is considered manufacturing. So extraction and the physical work of digging raw ore out of the ground is not considered in scope. Go on to the next slide. As I mentioned before, all of our projects need to be collaborative in nature. So applicants will need to apply as a project consortium. So a project consortia needs to include at least 2 unassociated industry partners. And we define a formal collaborative partner as somebody who contributes cash to the project, contributes background IP to the project, and you're going to work collaboratively to develop new foreground IP. And hence, you will also receive funding from NGen. So that's how we define a formal collaborative partner. We also need at least 1 small medium enterprise to be part of the consortia, so less than 500 employees globally. In relation to that, multinational corporations are certainly welcome to be part of the consortia as long as there is 1 SME. And the third bullet there, this is something new that's been added on since our last EV manufacturing program. There must demonstrate a clear path to commercialization into our EV value chain. So we're looking for the involvement and or support from either an industry-based market pull company, so someone downstream from you, like a potential customer, or a vehicle manufacturer or a tier 1 business. So the involvement or support would ideally come in the form of a formal collaborative partnership. So somebody who would come onto the consortium as a full-fledged partner, or somebody providing an entity that will be providing in-kind support. If not a formal collaborative partnership nor in-kind support, then we would request a strong and credible letter of support to demonstrate an agreement to commercialize project outcomes. Now let's get into the nitty-gritties of the program terms and requirements. So who's eligible to apply for NGen funding? So we're looking for for-profit organizations, so private sector entities that are registered here in Canada and with value-added presence in Canada as well. Nonprofit organizations that facilitate R&D, whose funding is primarily received from the private sector. Non-federal crown corps, whose funding is primarily from the commercial activities, as well as Indigenous organizations. So at NGen, we work on a reimbursement model. So we're looking for projects between $1.5 and $8 million. We'll reimburse up to 37% of eligible expenses. So at NGen, we consider eligible as expenses everything from labor. So any researchers or engineers that are working on the project, their hours that are dedicated to the project can be reimbursed can be considered an eligible expense. Subcontractors up to a specific percentage of total project value, capital and equipment up to a specific percentage, material supplies, travel, and other costs such as IP-related costs. And to ensure that the project remains collaborative in nature, we're saying that any one partner cannot receive more than 70% of NGen's funding. So of that 37% that you get back from us, we're saying that any one partner cannot receive more than 70% of that. That's just to make sure that all partners are contributing to the project and are benefiting from the project as well. And we're giving projects a fairly healthy timeline until the end of the 2027-28 fiscal year, so March 31st, 2028, to get all the claims and expenses in. Our program is also 100% stackable with other sources of government funding as well. Now let's take a look at the application process and key dates. The 2 major gateways I've bolded here are, so screening and full application. So applicants have to submit their projects for screening by October 11th, 2023, 5 p.m. Eastern. I'll go into detail on what screening entails in a later slide. Once the project development team assesses the applications to ensure that they're in scope, we'll pass you through screening. And once we pass you through screening, applicants will gain access to the full application, which is due by November 15th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So the full application is the bulk of the work. So we recommend applicants to submit their projects for screening earlier rather than later. And the application portal is open now to accept applications. So I'm going to go more about this in a later slide as well. So once the full application is submitted, it will then be passed on to an independent panel of experts who will grade and assess each application. If your project is successful and recommended for funding, they will then enter a contracting stage where documents are brought up to a certain standard and quality, and where legally binding documents will be developed and executed. For example, we have a collaboration agreement between the partners of the consortia, as well as the master project agreement, which is an agreement between NGen consortia as well. And once the contracting period is complete, projects will commence and can start incurring expenses. So that's a high-level overview of what our application process looks like. Now let's go into the requirements for screening. So we're looking for, by October 11th, 2023, we're looking for a high-level description of your project, contact information for all your partners, so at least one lead contact and finance contact per partner, a signed NGen application agreement, so essentially an NDA by all of your partners, a high-level financial proposal. So for each partner, please identify the funding that you're looking for from NGen, your cash contribution, your in-kind contribution, if any, as well as any other confirmed sources of government funding, if any. And last but not least, once you submit a project for screening, that's when the NGen finance team will reach out to start a financial due diligence assessment, which will assess each partner's ability to support their financial commitments to the project by evaluating various factors such as profitability, liquidity, and cash flow. And I want to stress, because you won't get access to the full application until you submit a project for screening, please submit this screening application as early as possible to give sufficient time to complete the full application. So what's involved in the full application? So we're looking for 10 application questions, approximately 1,000 words each, or 7,000 characters, a project plan, so a Gantt chart, a risk register, so a full-on risk analysis, such as like a technical risk, commercial risks, IP, regulatory risks, you name it, an IP plan, so essentially a best guess of the pieces of IP that you'll be bringing into the project and the pieces of IP that will come out of the project. We are also looking for one financial workbook per partner. So financial workbooks will lay out in detail your labor expenses, your subcontractor expenses, et cetera, and also additional attachments such as letters of support that I had flagged earlier. Again, this is where the bulk of the work in the application process. We encourage you to submit a project for screening as soon as possible to give you sufficient time to complete this stage properly. So yeah, so that's an overview of our application process. If you applicants are not in this journey alone, so our project development team will be here to support. If you need help finding collaborative partners, if you're unsure about your whether your project idea is in scope or not, and if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us at ev-challenge@ngen.ca. We're happy to help answer any questions, to help chat with you one-on-one to make sure that your application is as successful as possible. Again, you're not on this journey alone. Our team is here to help and support. And on a very much related note, if you have a project idea and are looking for potential project partners, please feel free to log on to this website, ngen.ca/evmp-collaboration-portal. This will take you to a page where you can post your project ideas, as well as browse other project partners and ideas that you can potentially join their consortia as well. We do have upcoming events where you can take part and again find potential project partners and learn more about our application process. We on September 6th we have a B2B networking event. We will be including that in our upcoming newsletter, so feel free to stay tuned for. And we'll also be posting the event on social media, so feel free to register. We look forward to having you join us to network and find potential project partners and find other collaboration opportunities. We also have 2 EVMP project development workshops coming up on September 20th and October 17th. The October 17th obviously will be targeted at projects who have submitted a project for screening, right? So, excuse me, my nose is running a little bit. The project development workshops will essentially provide you with advice on how to the best, what an ideal application would look like, and give you any tips and tricks on how to put together a great application. We do have other funding programs coming up. Our team just closed a general advanced manufacturing program in June. Live right now is our EVMP program. And later on in the year, we will be launching our industrial decarbonization and circular manufacturing program. This program is currently under consultation. So feel free, we don't know what the terms and requirements currently of the program will look like. So please stay tuned and we'll be sure to update you later on. Separate from our project funding, NGen also has a workforce development arm of our organization, namely our future, what we call our Future Ready initiative. So helping our Canadian manufacturing footprint modernize and upskill their workforce. And it's currently made up of 2 programs. Our first program is our Transformation Leadership Program, or TLP for short. So the TLP program is a 12-week program which will help provide leadership teams of SME manufacturers with tools to self-assess their businesses and find areas where they can continue to mature and continually to grow globally. So this program is grounded upon helping companies undergo a digital transformation toward Industry 4.0. So the participating organization will only pay $1,500 for the TLP program, which would normally cost $7,500 for such a program out in the market. So based on those gaps that are identified in the TLP, companies have an option to take part in our second initiative called our AMP Up program, where companies can select employees for upskilling based on the gaps that you identified in the TLP, and work with an NGen training liaison to undergo assessments and create personalized upskilling plans. So through the AMP Up program, companies will also get 80% reimbursement on upskilling for their selected employees, up to a maximum reimbursement of $4,000. This also includes skills assessments and upskilling supports worth an additional $3,000. So this entire $15,000 package will cost an organization only $2,500 to take part. So feel free to reach out if you want to learn more. We want to stress that funding will be available on a first come, first served basis for 300 manufacturers across Canada. So register for the Future Ready program to build your company's strategic transformation program and to help develop the workforce you will need to succeed in the future. So feel free to reach out to our colleagues in the other arm of our NGen team at transformative.ca if you have any questions. So to close off, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Please also visit our website for detailed guides, resources, and templates. So thanks again to our partners at Accelerate ZEV, at the Battery Metals Association of Canada, and at C2M2A for joining us for our webinar today. There's a lot of exciting investments happening in the critical minerals sector. So we highly encourage you to reach out to understand the different resources and services provided by all of our partners. Yeah, so let's open up the floor with any questions for myself and any of our partners who've joined us today. Tim, I don't know if we have any questions coming in from the audience.
Yeah, there are 3 in the Q&A tab below.
Okay, yeah. Okay, a question from the audience. Regarding vehicle lightweighting processes, does this include manufacturing processes for additive manufacturing materials used in any part of the vehicle, or just the battery-related part? So that's a very good question. So vehicle lightweighting, as long as the vehicle lightweighting is directed at any of the objective of growing or enhancing the electric vehicle, then that's in the scope, and that can include any part of the vehicle, not just the batteries. Obviously, the battery is the main powertrain component, and it should be directed is any kind of lightweighting related to the battery would certainly help improve the objectives of the EV. So that's highly encouraged, but any other part of the vehicle would be acceptable as well. But feel free to reach out to us, and we can have a conversation as to and go more into detail. Any other questions for myself and our partners today? Oh, we do have some questions down below. Is project screening optional or required? It is certainly required. It is not optional. We will, as soon as you submit something for screening, we should take 24 to 48 hours to get back to you, whether or not you've passed through screening. So we'll be sure to be with you along that journey. So if you have any questions along the way, we'll be sure to help answer them. Would a technology like direct lithium extraction for brines apply, even though Canada does not have traditional brines? So again, certainly anything related to the processing and refining of battery minerals is certainly in scope. And especially if you have non-traditional brines, and so in your project you may be developing novel IP because of the non-traditional brines. So we would certainly encourage such a project. Again, this is very much these questions are these project ideas. We can certainly discuss them on a case-by-case basis. So please reach out to us at ev-challenge@ngen.ca. We can certainly, a member of our team can certainly chat with you to flush those project ideas out. Can projects have other federal or non-governmental funding contributions and any limits? So that's a very good question from Susan Carlisle. Our funding is 100% stackable with other sources of federal and provincial funding. So feel free to let us know if you have any confirmed sources of government funding coming from other pots. And our funding is 100% stackable. So we are not we're not the limiting program. But if you do have another program that has like maybe 75% stacking limit, their requirement would be the governing. And last but not least, does minerals extraction from brine fall under processing? Yes, because it is not the physical work of digging materials out of the ground. So as soon as you dig the raw ore out of the ground and you're processing them, that's considered in scope. One more question from Ryan Burgess. Is there a higher priority placed on projects producing the final, most highly refined products for battery manufacturing, or would a processing generating an intermediate battery input qualify? So that's a good question, Ryan. We do not prioritize whether something's much more upstream or downstream. The intermediate materials would certainly be in scope for the EVMP program, and it would not be over prioritized by something downstream from. Yeah. Any other questions for myself and our partners? No. Another question is brought up from my colleague John Sagana. So would processing and producing rare earth element material required for permanent magnets required for motors and EVs be eligible? 100%. So this definitely falls under our program. processing of rare earth elements, definitely a gap in our value chain. So yes, short answer is yes, it would be in scope. Another question: when did you say the industrial decarbonization and circular manufacturing program would be announced? It's TBD, but we're expecting it to be announced later this calendar year. Yeah. Any more questions? Again, if you guys have any follow-up questions after this webinar, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can also send this deck out to all the participants from this program, so you have all of our contact information as well as our related guides and templates and resources as well. If we have no more questions, again, thank you very much, everybody, for taking time out of your busy Tuesday to take part in this webinar. Yeah, and we look forward to having follow-up discussions with all of you. So feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.